1, 2, 3. Hey! Hey, everybody, welcome to the Download Youth Ministry Web Show, episode 268. Doug Fields here with the Queen, as always.
Oh,
Katie Edwards.
looky there.
Josh, who just took his tie off.
Yep.
Griffin,
I'm just casual Friday today.
co-host, and
It's only one
senior.
item. I take off
And I
one
also
item.
undid one extra button.
Senior Supertone, Jason Carson, also
Yay.
representing the field of senior pastordom.
Thank you for addressing our Spanish contingent, too. That was really
We
articulate.
are going to do a short show
Okay.
on busyness.
And no questions.
No questions.
No
But-
questions. Close the questions.
And part of the reason there's no questions is because we had planned to do two shows. So if you were on episode 267, you think, hey, everybody's wearing the same stuff. Well, it's because we shot the show right
Immediately
afterwards.
following.
And we are going to do a short show
Yeah.
on busyness. First of all, let's do this. Let's say that our primary sponsor, the Orange Conference,
Conference. Love them.
I texted the last show, during the last show, to
Yeah.
get the code, and it didn't. It came right at the
yeah.
very end.
Yeah,
so unless
sorry.
we can put that in somewhere,
We'll
but
try.
the code to join us at the Orange Conference
Yep.
at the end of April.
Let
go
me
to
guess.
go to theorangeconference.com.
And what is orange.org? We just had this conversation.
We should be better with our sponsors.
Google Orange Curriculum, and
No.
bam, there it is.
Orange Conference.
Orange Conference, yeah, even
Yeah.
better.
What is orange?
It's
What is
.com?
orange.com?
.com?
Yeah, what is orange.com? The code,
What
if
is
you want a
orange, guys? What is
DYM discount,
What's
the
the
code
code?
is OC15
Orange Conference.
DYM.
15 DYM. Okay.
yeah.
Commit that to memory so that when people ask, we know.
Well, by the time
What's
the
the
next
15?
show's on, we're
Yeah.
going to be at the conference. So anyway,
Orange
at the Orange
Conference
Conference,
15,
we're all going to
DYM.
be there. We're hanging out for meals together. There's going to be two
Steaks.
hang meat
There's gonna be
opportunities where we get to
Steaks.
hang with you.
Outback with John, whatever from last show. Love you, John.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
John Miller.
others. See
Yeah.
you there.
Yeah. Okay, so let's. This is just kind of a mini show
Okay.
on busyness. Josh, why don't you tell them what we talked about the other day?
All right. Doug and,
And
I
then
talked.
when you do, I'll figure out how I can get in Youth Ministry 360, Leader Treks, and APU, since you don't have banners for us.
Mission
in the
accomplished.
back,
You just
that
got them all
These
in.
are our sponsors of our show that
Yep.
do incredible things. And we found out at the break it's leadertreks.org,
Yes.
Yes.
not
And
.com.
not many people know this, but the YM360 Orlando promo code extended another week. Congratulations. Use promo code Orlando. 20% off the next week. 7 more days. It's a big deal. So anyhow,
It is a big deal.
Doug and I talked a little bit about
Yes,
busyness. Business, and just acknowledge that we oftentimes have excuses for our busyness, and we have surface issues and symptoms of a much greater depth of hurt, insecurity, pride, arrogance, whatever, that is making those symptoms come to life that lead us to say yes, get overcommitted, buried, we make bad choices, and there you go. That's
If you're a
gist.
DYM member in April's membership, you need to listen to the Mentor Me with Josh and I. It got deep fast.
It did. We were like, hey, okay, 1 minute in, we're talking. I'm crying at one point. It was pretty emotional, pretty serious. Okay, we didn't cry, but he did call me out on all my crap. I was like, thanks. And this is in front of everybody.
Is that what you guys are going to do to us? right now?
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
So we're turning it on you, Katie. Let's talk about the depth of your busyness right now. No, can we just acknowledge that everybody's busy? Literally, as soon as this is done, we're gonna press the stop button. Running. None of us are like, we got nothing to do today.
Well, no, I actually planned in some margin, but you were late, and so you destroyed my margin.
Which is a great
As well.
principle to
Right.
have friends.
but here's
that are
the
on
deal.
time.
That
Here's
could
the
be
deal.
on a shirt. You destroyed my margin.
No, I would wear that for Doug because he's the king of that too. Come on.
Destroyed my margin.
But while you were late,
I just asked.
Jason and I had a great spiritual moment together, so we had some good time. So
And then you talked to Katie.
I know,
Yeah.
I got some leadership.
It wasn't a spiritual time, but it was a good conversation.
was great.
yeah, good leadership conversation.
Yeah.
So,
But I
anyway.
mean, the reality of it is, we're all busy. We're all a little bit overcommitted. Usually, unhealthy margin is commended, rewarded, promoted, and it's not the way Jesus intended us to live, and it's not healthy for any of us.
So the question becomes why?
Yeah.
Why? Why are we busy?
I think we want to be busy. Busy is a mark of achievement. Of people ask me, "How do you get so much stuff done?" And that makes me swell up with pride.
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
And you don't tell them I have paid staff.
Exactly. They don't need to know that. No, I mean honestly, like it is a mark of achievement of people look up to you when you're busy, overcommitted.
We even
overworked.
greet people that way. Hey, keep them busy, as if an
Right.
affirmation is
Yeah.
the right answer.
Do you think that busy is defined the same for every person?
Let's talk about it.
I mean, I like. Do you think we would consider the same thing to be busy, like based on how you're wired, or based on what you love, or based on?
No,
do you
that's
know
a
what I'm
good point.
saying? Like, I don't know how to quantify it because I haven't
Like
had
a
a chance to think
calendar
about
that
it.
is packed back
Like
to back to
a
back to
busy
back.
day for me isn't necessarily a draining day.
Right.
So if I get up with my kids and I have great time with them, but it's still, getting them ready for school,
Out
but
the
I
door,
might
homework
enjoy
done.
that,
Right.
or it might be a little crazy, and then I go to my job, and it might be a busy day, but I enjoy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
when do you feel like busy crosses to a place where it's unhealthy?
It's a good question.
I was wondering for you, Katie, like, because I think men, we can be total idiots. Like we just
That's a pretty
busyness-
general statement.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I didn't- I didn't
that's
say
accurate.
that.
The busyness that happens for men and us, like having to be like these macho guys, say, "Look what I tackled, look what I accomplished, look what I've done." It's different for women, right?
Well, I mean,
Women
I
aren't that
definitely.
stupid. Like us.
Well, guys invented trophies. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
Women did not invent trophies.
I mean, I definitely
Right.
experience the same kind of. I wrestle with the same pride issues. I think.
Okay,
I
okay.
think how we tackle things does look a little bit different,
Yeah.
and what I'm charged with in a day looks a little bit different than maybe what you guys are charged with in a day. Not that either of those are better or right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, but I mean, I definitely struggle with the same pride that you're talking about,
Yeah.
or being swelled ego and things like that. But I do think there are some days where busyness crosses into an unhealthy place.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some days where I'm busy and I'm like, this was the best day ever. It was a great night with my family and
Right.
we were having a great time, but it was still busy because we're doing homework and cooking dinner and doing some of that kind of stuff. So it still maybe feels active, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that's busyness.
Well, you also just connected busyness with family too, and so oftentimes what Josh and I have been talking about is when busyness takes you away from family.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that
usually the
that
case
when
for
you
me.
go back after a full day of ministry, you go home and you've been so busy that you're exhausted.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is minister to your family.
So you give your spouse and your kids your emotional table scraps in some ways, and then all of a sudden they grow up and they don't like ministry of the church, God,
Sure.
you.
Or you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I was saying
So
to
we're
Josh
all
that
really busy and
I was saying I think one of the reasons that if we just try to go for like what's the simple takeaway, I think one of the reasons we're so busy is we say yes to too many things. Okay, so let's live at that basic level. I'm sure there's other reasons, but we say yes to too many things. Then the question becomes, why? Why are we saying yes? And this is when we go below the surface, to what are the real issues?
Gotcha.
Like Josh, what were some that you had said, and I said that's not below the surface. Remember I was saying that was a symptom. Like I like to be busy, or
Yeah.
I feel.
I mean, I'm passionate about what I do. I think I feel validated by it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
let's
there's
say it's
affirmation, right?
let's say it's validation.
Little
so,
bit of minister, hero,
yeah,
too,
but what's deep, deeper than that? What Josh and I came to in this discussion is that we're in our brokenness. We both struggle with an insecurity. And maybe when you talked about Katie, you talked about pride.
Right.
At the bottom of that might be insecurity. So I was giving a little bit of my family system to Josh, saying that I grew up in an environment where with my mom everything was fine. It was never great. My dad was gone a lot because he traveled Monday through Friday to keep food on the table. So I was pretty much raised by mom during my formative teenage years, and everything was fine. So like I'd have a baseball game or something as a little leaguer, and I'd hit a home run and 2 doubles, and Mom, how'd I play? Fine. It was so I kind of grew up in this environment where I was trying to get above fine. So I know my own brokenness, and so when you bring your brokenness out in the open, then you can bring your decision making next to it. So if I keep my brokenness hidden,
Yeah.
and I go, I just like to be busy, or I just deal with the symptoms, the stuff above the baseline, then everything becomes a yes because I'm needed or I'm wanted or it's a great opportunity or all these different things. But once I bring my brokenness next to it, and I go, oh, well, the only reason I would say yes to this is because I'm insecure and I'm broken and I really want to be validated in that point, then it's easier to say no to that. that make sense?
What if it's
Yeah.
something that you don't have the opportunity to say no to? You feel like it's part of your job, or you're coerced to do it, or you have to do it. Like you can't. Like I like the stuff that I have the option of saying yes or no to.
Yeah.
But what if it's part of something that it's mandatory, it's required, it's whatever, but it's gonna increase the expectations. It puts more pressure on you. It cheats your family, etc.
Yeah.
Because that happens pretty often too. Like this was handed to me. I didn't get a chance to say no.
Yeah, well then I think in order to not cheat your family, you've got to figure out where, like Andy Stanley's book, Choosing to Cheat. You get somebody's going to get cheated. So if you've been dumped on at work, then you need to figure out something else at work that you can, hey, I realize this is mandatory. You didn't have a choice. You've got to do that.
How do I offload something?
How do I offload that? So I had lunch with Jim Burns today, and so Jim Burns not only was my youth pastor, but my mentor, and now in some ways at Homeward he's my boss. Although I like to tell him that I'm unemployable, that I don't really have bosses. So, but
Which even if you employ him, he's unemployable.
so he was we were talking about something, and I said, okay, Burns, I'm going to say no to this unless you tell me that it's a yes, because
Wow.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's in my sweet spot. I think it would be just political for me to do that, or whatever it was. Going down in this, and because he was kind of like 50-50.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I won't fall on this sword, but all at the same time, it'd be good for us at Homeward, and
So just enough guilt.
Oh,
but
yeah, yeah,
just
no, it
enough
was
like value.
yeah. And there's this kind of a phrase that I was talking to another mentor about this years ago, and this is a little bit crude, but this is how I remember it. He said, if it's not a hell yes, it should be a hell no.
That's great.
So I
Very
mean,
clear.
it is a little bit of
Very
that.
clear.
It weighs the scales a little bit.
If it's not an obvious yes, then
Yeah.
say no. That's interesting. Because I think that's where we live in. We live in that gray area of opportunity. Like, it's good, it's not great, but it's not bad. It's only a few extra minutes, or it's only another day away, or it's only another commitment.
Yeah.
Where if it's not clear and led by God's Spirit, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah,
We say yes rapidly.
that's the management piece. Is it's not discerning between the good and the good.
Right.
It's oftentimes in life it's discerning between the great and the great. Like which is going to be more great. I mean, we have great
Yeah.
opportunities. A couple weeks ago when I spoke at Saddleback, I gave that joke where I said, it's not like life is, do I pet a puppy or get a colonoscopy? Life is not that simple.
Real clear.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that simple. A lot of times it's choosing between great opportunities and great
A
opportunities.
great colonoscopy or a really great
Right.
colonoscopy. I get it.
Do
I
you
get it.
guys think, you do quite a bit of traveling and speaking and saying yes to quite a few things that are outside, like what your role is? I mean, not quite a bit, sorry, that's generalizing, but do you think that's what you're talking about more? Or do you think like in your job as a daily youth pastor, you're constantly in that place of busyness of saying yes and no to things as far as like, do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I understand time away from family or saying yes and no to things that are take you on the road
Sure.
or are outside of your normal realm. Do you know
Well,
what I'm
I
saying?
would throw out current examples from our church only.
Sure.
And I would go men's breakfast. They wanted me to come speak at 6 a.m.
Right.
on a Thursday.
So like within the church.
And that was a real easy no for me because I don't do anything at 6 a.m. except sleep. So that was like a no. Like, I wish I could. I wish I wasn't already booked. Calendar's full. Come hang out at a MOPS thing or teach the membership class. I would like to do those things. I would love to say yes internally to church stuff that's outside of youth ministry and
Yeah.
in my
Right.
charge.
Gotcha.
And I go, man, I just can't do the announcements that weekend. Or I could, but then I would be away from the youth group that morning. Or I would
Yeah.
now I got to be at multiple services, so now I'm going to miss out on some family time or networking time with the parents in our ministry or whatever.
That's
So
good.
I would say, yes, it is certainly in our worlds. I think it is that outside thing. But I think internally, there are asks all of the time.
Right.
Well, you just said some good stuff. That's good discipline because, I mean, all those things you mentioned, a newcomer's class or whatever, I mean, all that stuff could be ego, right? You can
Right.
show up and go kill it and be better than any of the speakers they may have in there. And all of a sudden, like, wow, that Josh is so funny. And it could really puff you up. And you have
Yeah.
the discipline to say, okay, this is what I can do
Well,
and what I can't
and I would
do.
also go to the new members class and work the parents to get the kids in the youth group. Like I would use
Sure.
whatever platform I'm given to move our student ministry along. So I also justify things like, well, now I'm going to miss lunch because it's Sunday afternoon. Now I'm going to miss lunch with my family, stay at the church for a couple extra hours. But it's good for the youth group. It's good for my platform. It's good
Gotcha.
politically for the membership. The elder's going to be happy with me or whatever. So I can justify anything into a yes. I totally can. I'm just going to be honest with you. I can figure out a way that is a great decision for me to say yes to. I can.
I have a
And I
good
do too much.
a good buddy of mine is in ministry, and he is I kind of just see it, and I've talked to him about it a few times, but he just feels like he needs to say yes to everything, and it's like it comes out of insecurity, and it comes out of like he wants his identity to be someone that he's a total people pleaser. So everything he wants his identity to be is someone that always comes through for everyone, and it's like you got to be careful with that, right? Never set yourself up to be a savior because we've already had one and he was good enough. So just like be in the moment and know what your identity is. Isn't identity the key to this whole thing?
Yeah.
Like that if we know who we are and whose we are,
Yeah.
that we can make the choices we need to in life. I also loved.
I'm a little stunned by your theology, though, that the Savior's just good enough. So I just
more than enough, Doug.
We're
Abundance.
all a little taken back by that. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm just
No, you know what I loved?
I'm wondering what church my son's going to.
What I loved is when you shared at Saddleback, did you quote, was it Dallas Willard? The one word that described Jesus the
Relaxed,
best?
yeah.
Relaxed.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I've never thought about it that way.
Well,
Dallas, so set it up. Dallas Willard said,
yeah, somebody said, would you describe Jesus in one word? And, great teacher, Lord,
Love.
Savior, forgiveness, love.
Yeah.
Dallas Willard said relaxed.
which is
know,
amazing.
that-
Wrap your head around that.
Well, when you think about, you're going to a guy's house to heal his daughter, that guy
Yeah.
has an agenda. That agenda is, let's get there. This is my agenda. Let's
And it
go.
has to be now.
And somebody reaches through the crowd and touches his coat, and Jesus stops and says, "Who touched me?" So that
Mess with the guy's agenda.
messed with that person's agenda, but had the capacity to love that person in the moment. Jesus walked through. He didn't heal everybody. And I think in ministry, we're like, oh, I got to meet with that kid, and I got to meet with that parent. The problem is in ministry is people's needs never stop. So there's always more to say yes to. And, at the end of the day, you say yes to everybody else's agenda, but then you didn't say yes to your agenda, whether that's an agenda of self-care, like your own heart.
Right.
So now you're drained. You have nothing to give to anybody else.
Or
'cause
sleep even too. Your own
Whatever,
care, right?
whatever.
Exercise.
That you've given yourself away, and you wind up then you're prepping your message on, during the Saturday Night Live monologue for the next morning because you said yes to people all week because you are a people pleaser and you had no time for a message. Now you teach on Sunday morning and you're giving table scraps, on Sunday
Right,
morning,
yeah,
as opposed to, looking at our week and even treating things like prep and leadership development and heart and time with Jesus. Treat those as appointments if you need to. Purpose Driven Youth Ministry put that calendar in there to say, you organize your week by your priorities, and you can't, people can't be your only priority. You have
Right.
prep priority, you have administrative priority. As a leader, you've got to do other things, and you treat those as appointments as opposed to, giving your agenda or your schedule away for everybody else to fill.
Yeah, that is one of the things that
A lot
I
of
took
wisdom happening
took
there.
away from that. I put
Yep.
sermon prep right on, especially the Thursday heading into a weekend when our youth group is.
Yeah.
I do a little prep on Tuesday. I try to find some time on Wednesday, but Thursday, especially the morning when I'm the freshest and the sharpest, it's on my calendar. You can't find me.
Yeah.
That's an appointment. I'm booked,
That's good.
but stuff still tries to creep in there.
Well, everything. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, again, I think we always underestimate what we can do in a certain amount of time.
Sure.
I can do that. I can write that letter to parents. I can prep this, whatever. We give it little blocks of time, but then we've got our phone with all the different alerts and Facebook statuses. I mean, when
Yeah.
me and Josh used to meet with McGill, his phone would just buzz all the time because
All day.
anybody who liked a tweet or an Instagram or something would show up on his phone, and that would just I realize I'm old, but that would drive me crazy. But you're so easily distracted
Used
by
to the
that.
tapping of the telegraph with Doug. He's like, just stop! I just can't think. The telegraph is always.
Yeah, I'd always be distracted by the Morse code. Yeah,
Turn down that 8-track.
that's
That was my
actually real.
Doug impression from like
Yeah,
the 1970s.
I know.
You're
That was
welcome.
an interesting one.
Yeah, he was angry in the 70s, wasn't
Totally.
he? He was like fierce.
Feisty.
Doug, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you got to block out time for what's important. Even coming to the office in the morning, the church office, I know that as soon as I open my laptop, my time with God, my chance of having a time with God diminishes greatly. So for me, that first few moments in the church office is a really important one. And it's usually the time when I'm most inundated too. You walk by the secretary, someone's meeting you there. There's always, those first few moments are always so challenging. So I would say carve those out as well.
Yeah.
It's a battle. Josh and I, because we meet every week, we talk about our calendars and schedules and he's essentially doing the job I did here for 20 years. I think we have a lot of connection and accountability is like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I might say to him about a speaking engagement, and Josh is able to say, now, why would you say yes to that? Is that strategic? Is it a good use of time? Are you saying because of the paycheck? Because you think, oh, that's a popular person that you want to align yourself with, or whatever. That is also helpful when you have other people to say,
Well, and our spouses, I think, play a key role in that. Obviously, all of our spouses are very actively having great marriages and great relationships and open and honest conversations about what we say yes to, what we say no to, in every way, outside of the church, in the church, family and friends wise. I mean, practically, I think a huge takeaway in balance and margin and busyness is we start with the family calendar and nothing gets added to the church calendar until it's been run through the family. So I'm like, this is a great plan. This looks good. I'm gonna take this home. Take it home too. Let's compare it to our families and life and make sure this is the right decision. Then we're gonna launch the student ministry calendar. And I think now I'm in the leadership, so I get to do that. Not everybody gets that position, but I would say, man, start with the family. Go practical. Carve out your family time first, then figure out.
yeah.
You got an overnighter on your anniversary. You only have to do that once before. You don't have to celebrate your anniversary anymore.
That's right. When we do, Kathy and I, a lot of times at the Youth Specialties Conference, we'll go in a day early and do a marriage conference. And, which, by the way, we just celebrated 30 years of
Ew.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah, got married when we were 12.
Arranged marriage.
Yeah,
It's normal. It's fine.
yeah, we're both in Utah at the time.
Yikes.
Now I forgot what I was going to
Anyways.
say.
Anyways.
Oh yeah,
Marriage conference.
so we talk about the busyness and the calendar and all this type of stuff, and Kathy asks a good question. She says, "What's the worst that could happen if you say no?" And usually a youth worker or his or her spouse would say, "Well, I'll lose my job." And Kathy, in her gentle, tender way, says, "That's not the worst that could happen. You losing your job. That's not the worst. What's the worst is you losing your marriage, your kids losing their mom or dad, whatever. There's
Right.
other things that are worse.
Kids
than
leaving the church, losing their faith,
losing
not
your
following
job,
Jesus.
Yes.
Yes.
But we live in fear, and fear is that what's underneath that surface line. I mean, even when I was here, I know there were times where, I had to sacrifice a lot to do ministry at this capacity, at this pace of a place, and also to, my commitment to be, I wasn't going to be that dad like my mom. I wasn't going to be fine. So I was going to be above and beyond. I wasn't going to miss my kids' events, that type of stuff. But that's pretty much defined my life as my kids were growing up. We weren't in small groups as couples, we didn't do I didn't have hobbies, it was that type of okay, it's work / ministry and family, and that's pretty much it.
I remember the first time I came to Saddleback a long time ago, whatever this is, 15 years ago. You were in the thick of raising your kids, and you're teaching PDYM and Purpose-Driven Youth Ministry conference. Place is packed, the whole bit, and then you're like, okay, someone else is going to teach the next session because I'm going to go coach my son's baseball game. And someone else got up and taught, and you were gone. And I walked away from that going, what?
remember
Everyone
that
is
too.
here
Yeah.
to see you. and to listen to you, and you're not, what are you doing? And I never forgot. I went, that's the kind of person that I want to be for my son. That's the kind of, and it's inconvenient and all that, but it's the right decision. There are times when that's absolutely the right call.
Yeah.
So, stuck with me for whatever, 15 years later, right? Same.
Same. I asked Doug to speak at a leader conference or whatever, and he was at his kids' games, and I remember like, gosh, I just wish I could get him. But then all these years, it stuck with me. Like, I want to be that kind of dad. Way better lesson than you showing up at that event. Way better.
True story. I remember you coming in to teach HSM. I had just taken over HSM. You were speaking a bunch. It was awesome. And you came in one time, sweaty, nasty baseball cap on. You came in and like the music stopped and you were on stage. Gross. And it didn't even matter because you had come from Cody's game and this is how it was, or whatever, whose game. And you're like, this is how it's going to be. And I remember going, that guy needs better margin.
Why was he why was he sweaty? Were you playing in Cody's game?
He was running. He was running in.
From the car.
Running in. He was out of breath.
But let's go back to that 15 years ago, Josh. Let's go back there and let's say I didn't go to Cody's game.
Right.
And I stayed there. Nobody would have known, or even if I would have said, "I'm missing my kid's game because of this."
Well, you sacrifice.
Whatever. And you get the props from the people there, but I don't remember anybody that was at that conference 15 years ago. But today,
except me, sure.
No, I don't even remember you being
I
there.
heard some of that. I'm not gonna lie.
Pretty forgettable. But the reality is, last night as I'm sitting in a restaurant, sitting across the dinner table from my 26-year-old, my 23-year-old, we have a great friendship, relationship. Those don't happen accidental. Those are not accidental decisions that we make. And I think it's hard. It takes, I tell my kids this all the time. I could care less about all my books and all that kind of stuff. What I care about is, Tori, Cody, Cassie, and a marriage. That's way more important legacy. My books will be, half of them are out of print anyway right now, but that's not what people remember.
Yeah,
It's
so good.
Yeah, my kids don't read my books, so.
That's all right.
All right, hey, here's the deal.
Somebody does.
Yeah,
Probably. I read a few chapters. It was really good.
Yeah, of Would You Rather.
Yeah.
I read Would You Rather 18 through 33.
Classic Would You Rather. Great book. Still available. I think that one's still in print.
Yeah.
Ironically, but.
Okay, here's the deal. This is going to trigger some questions.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this whole time as we've been talking. This is going to trigger some. But what about, or I'm in this situation, which is totally great. Yeah. So send us those questions at webshow@downloadyouthministry.com, and we'll answer those. Those will be fun. Right. I think questions about how do I navigate all the stuff that I've got going on in the midst of ministry are fun to talk about. And there's some people around this table that we've all had successes at it, and we've all had miserable failures at it as well. Got different styles of life and different types of life. I mean, Katie's full-time mom and a full-time junior high pastor and juggles all kinds of stuff. And how you do it being so calm all the time is unbelievable. Yeah. But that is because of the Holy Spirit. And you don't wait like Josh to have your quiet time when you come into the office.
I just like a second quiet time. Like I have 2 lunches every day. I also have 2 devotionals.
That's good. Okay.
Matthew, I just got to read it again.
Yeah.
I got to read it again.
Well, it's Mary and Martha, Josh, and you're Mary. You sit at the feet of Jesus. No one can take that away from you.
No one.
That's right. Okay, I'm more like Martha right now. I gotta go.
You gotta go.
Okay, because you were late. Talk to you later. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.